We have fire. It's burning down pretty good now. Just wasted all this time and effort. Let's give this another shot. Hello, welcome back to another episode from Pale Horse Survival and Tactical. I'm Bill, glad you could join me. Today we're going to take a look at bathroom duties in the woods. Kind of an embarrassing, touchy subject for a lot of people, but we're going to delve into it. Hello, welcome back. Our bathroom duties are something we all have to do on a daily basis, and this is a subject that's very few want to discuss. It's well, it's a touchy subject, kind of embarrassing to a lot of people, but it's something that needs to be covered. If you're camping with a group of people, and primitively, you can set up a community latrine, which is basically just a trench about a foot wide and 2 or 3 foot long. You just excavate it out. You could use a digging stick or a shovel if you have one. And you don't want to go any deeper than about 6 or 8 inches. The reason for that being the topsoil. In other words, the top 6 or 8 inches of soil contains all of the microbes that break down organic matter. So when you excavate your trench, you put your soil next to it. Somebody does their duty, they put a little bit of soil over the top. Those microbes are going to begin to break down that waste. Our waste is organic matter, the same as vegetative matter and leaf matter, etc., that breaks down composts with the action of the beneficial bacteria and the microbes in the topsoil. So you want to keep it about 6 or 8 inches deep. Some people construct a couple of poles across. If you want to sit and do your duty, you can squat. And actually, squatting is a more efficient way of defecating. What happens when you squat, it straightens out your colon. Your colon descends and it takes a sharp bend. And when you sit, you're actually kinked. That bend is kinked. And when you squat, which is a more natural way of doing it, it straightens out that bend, and it makes the bowel movement much more easy and effortless. If you look at kids, toddlers, when they're running around, they got their pamper on, and when they stop and they're going to do their duty, they instinctively cop a squat to do their duty. And so it's just a natural way of doing it. We in the Western world, we sit on toilets, which is a very unnatural way of defecating. And it produces a lot of, we have the highest rates of hemorrhoids in the Western world. If you go to Asian countries where it's very common to, insects are starting to get me out here, sun's going down. It's very common to squat in order to do their business, and they have almost no incidences of hemorrhoids over there. So just something to think about. If you're setting up a solo, you're not with people and you're just doing it solo, you can dig what's called a cat hole, which is 6 or 8 inches wide, just a small hole, about 6 or 8 inches deep, 6 or 8 inches wide, and you just cop a squat over the hole and do your duty, and then just backfill it back in with the topsoil. Wherever you do your duty at, you want to be away from a water source. Excuse me. You want to be at least 100 foot away, preferably further, from any water source, whether that's a spring, a pond, a lake, a stream, river, whatever. You want to take great pains not to pollute the water. That's why we have a lot of problems with Giardia and Cryptosporidium, which is primarily spread by feces. And the waters has been very disrespected, and a lot of pollution introduced to it. So 100 foot minimum from your water source, preferably downhill from a water source. So you don't want to pick your spot above the water source. So just look at the land, find an area that's lower than your water source, even if it's just slightly lower. Toilet paper. That's a touchy subject. Primitive living, you have to get used to not having a lot of creature comforts. Primitive living is not exactly clean, and it's not exactly comfortable. There's people out there that have a big problem with it, and others are kind of naturals and they blend right in to it, no problem. So it's all a matter of personal preference and how well you can adapt. And adaptability is the big thing in primitive living. You have to be able to adapt to your environment. That's key. If you're not able to adapt, you can have a very hard time. And the environment can kill you very fast. Nature has its own rules. Whether you're in the desert or the mountains, it has its own set of rules that you have to exist within. You can use those rules to your advantage if you can flow and blend with your environment. But I'm getting off topic now. That's another video. Toilet paper. I've heard stories of people, believe it or not, using pine cones. I don't know about you. Pine cone as toilet paper does not sound very comfortable. I've never tried it, not going to. So you can use sticks. I know I used to work with some Filipino guys for a number of years when I was in the auto body industry, heavy collision auto body industry, and heavy truck repair. And they were telling me that in the Philippines, toilet paper is a valuable commodity, and it's certain parts of it's pretty rare over there. So what they use is a stick. They take the stick and they whittle it down on the end so it's kind of spade shaped and flat on the end, and well, you can use your imagination on how they use that. In my area here, pine needles are very abundant. This is a coniferous forest, this whole area. I mean, there's tons of pine needles. And I have used pine needles personally. You just grab a wad of pine needles and it works. It's a lot better than a pine cone. Whatever you use, make sure you don't use poison ivy, poison oak, whatever. It's up to you to positively identify whatever you're using. You can use leaves. There's leaves, so you just have to kind of survey your area where you live in and what resources you have available to you. Whatever you use, put it in your latrine, your hole. Don't throw it all around, and make sure everything's buried. Be respectful to the environment and be neat about it. There was one more thing I wanted to discuss. Oh, long-term living. If you're looking for a little more creature comfort, it's not exactly primitive. It all depends on what resources you have available to you. In a long-term living scenario, if you want something that's a little more comfortable, you could have a dedicated kettle that's going to be used just for this purpose. You could have yourself a dedicated rag. Put water in the kettle, heat it up, get it nice and warm, and you can use the rag to clean yourself. It's going to be cleaner than any of the other methods that I've just discussed. And being able to clean yourself with a soft rag and some warm water, be in a primitive living situation, that's a luxury. And what I would do is afterwards I would rinse the rag out in the kettle and place clean water back in, dump that out, not in a water source, dump it in your latrine, and then fill it back up with clean water, put your rag back in there, put it back on the fire, and you could boil it. You even put tannic water in there too, and which is antibacterial, but you could boil it for 5 or 10 minutes and then pull the rag out. You could wring the rag out, hang it over a tree branch, let it dry, and discard your water back at your latrine site, and you're all set until you have to go to the bathroom again. So that's just another idea. But anyways, guys, that's pretty much it on this one, and my thoughts and ideas on that. But whatever you do, be very careful with the water, and don't go down to your water source and go and wash yourself after you go, because you're basically defecating in the water. You want to at least try and clean yourself with whatever you have available, so you don't you don't go down and pollute your water source. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it today for you. I hope it provided some useful information and gave you some ideas on primitive living and how to make it a little more comfortable. I hope all of you are having an outstanding day or night, depending on where you're located, and I will see all of you very soon on the next one. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.